Epping, I don't think anybody in London even understands just how close we are to civil disobedience on a vast scale in this country, and I regret saying that. Of course, there were some bad eggs that turned up at Epping. There were the usual far-right thugs. But equally, what about Antifa? Why are Antifa allowed to go to these demonstrations, to wear balaclavas, to not be identified, to do gestures last night of them shooting at members of the public? Why are Antifa allowed to turn up outside a meeting I do in Cornwall 3 months ago, to assault members of the public coming to a democratic meeting? So, you know, it isn't all far-right thuggery, as you might sometimes hear from our Prime Minister. But do I understand? You bet your life I do. You bet your life I do. You know, I'm sitting on my table with two mothers. Don't underestimate the simmering anger and disgust that there is in this country, that we are letting in every week, in fact some days, many hundreds of undocumented young males, many of whom come from cultures in which women and young girls are not even treated as second-class citizens. So the answer is yes, I do understand the genuine upset and anger. And I'll bet you that most of the people outside that hotel in Epping weren't far right or far left or anything like that. They were just genuinely concerned families.
Well, there you go, Paul Richards. He says he understands. I mean, actually, as you no doubt are aware, I worked with Nigel for a long time. He phoned me up the other day and he said to me, Alex, you've got this right from the beginning when it comes to women's safety and integration and men from other cultures. He said, you've been talking about this a long time, Alex, and you are right. The public are fed up. But does the Labour Party seem to understand this? Because I'm sitting there waiting for the Prime Minister to talk about these issues, waiting to feel like people like me deserve to be listened to, and I say that I don't feel safe walking around the streets of London where I live. But I'm not hearing anything. Instead, what I do hear is what Nigel Farage has alluded to, which is every time you try and make a point on this, you get far-right thugs, which is the label attached to all of us. Do you remember after Southport when that hashtag I'm a far-right thug trended on social media because people said, well, look, I actually feel the same way as some of these protesters. And instead I get things like, well, we're going to have an Islamophobia law instead, and I want to pull my hair out. I want to scream and shout because I feel like I'm not welcome in my own country, that I'm not listened to, that women and girls like me are being thrown under the bus, sacrificed at the altar of political correctness, that we don't matter and we have got no recourse to being heard. That's how I feel. That's how a lot of women listening to this show feel. Why on earth are people like Sir Keir Starmer not addressing that if Nigel Farage is?